back to my channel. Today I want to make a book review on one of my favorite books ever. I have done a little bit writing about it in the past on my Medium, but I always wanted to do a video version of the book recap because I really love this book. And I just thought that I should make a live instead of getting ready and filming a video. I could just make a live and just speak to my audience in quotes about the book. Okay, so this is one of my favorite books ever. This is one of my favorite books. It's so moving. It was so moving for me, and it's titled Measuring Time by Helon Habila. So I'm just gonna read from my Medium page, and I just hope that. Anyway, I'm just gonna read from my Medium page. All right. Excuse me. All right. So, Measuring Time by Helon Habila is a coming of age story about twin brothers Mamo and La Mamo. It takes us on their journey from childhood to adulthood, and I'm going to be reviewing the book through some of the themes I found most impactful. The first theme I'm going to talk about is ambition. The story begins with Lamang, the father of the twins, a renowned Casanova who is approached by a wealthy merchant and promised wealth in exchange for marrying his young daughter Tabitha. And because ambition often requires the Casanova, to an extent, sacrifices his lover boy status and the chance to be with the woman he loves, Saraya, when he agrees to the marriage. As is the norm in marriages of convenience, Lamang and Tabitha's marriage is not exactly a warm one. Lamang pines for his Saraya, and Tabitha likely spent the marriage pining for her own husband. While giving birth to their twins, Tabitha dies, and Lamang's indifference and coldness is transferred to the twins. As the twins grow up, they hear whispers of the way their father had treated their mother and experience his overwhelming emotional indifference and negligence towards them, and their hatred for him begins to grow. The next theme I'm going to talk about is helplessness. Another theme, okay, I'm just reading it. Another theme prevalent in the book is helplessness. One gets the sense of life happening to the character, the story taking the characters with it like a stream pushing along some inconsequential log of wood. The story is not exactly told like a stereotypical story that builds up to a climax, but rather focuses on the minutiae of a life, of a family, of a people, and this is what makes the helplessness of the characters a little unsettling to witness. There's no grand destiny to fulfill, no grand villain to conquer, no one true love that saves you, redeems you, just life, just the indifference of time and chance. This is especially true for Mamu, the older twin, who has sickle cell anemia and has spent most of his childhood plagued by one health crisis after another. As is expected of someone so acquainted with sickness and helplessness, Mamu, the older twin, is forced to confront his mortality, and with this comes a strong desire to leave his mark on the world, to become famous. But because he is only a child, he cannot really come up with a solid plan on how to achieve this goal until his paternal uncle Haruna comes back from the Biafran War, shell-shocked and with a broken mind. Uncle Haruna's return is met with celebration. Their father Lamang throws Uncle Haruna a party. Apart from the party, people troop in to visit Uncle Haruna and hear his stories. And it doesn't take long before the rumor mill spins him a shiny, lofty title, hero. And perhaps it is the fanfare around Uncle Haruna that makes Mamo decide that he wants to be a soldier. It doesn't matter that their uncle is barely present in his own body, in his own mind. It doesn't matter that he took his own life a short while after his arrival party. Mamo's young mind is set on fame, and he convinces his twin brother Lamamo and his cousin Asaba to run away and enlist in the war. I'm not sure which war this was, but this was the early 1900s and there were a lot of wars being fought. The next theme is the death of childhood dreams. The death of childhood dreams and the disillusionment that adulthood and growing up brings is also something the book heavily touches on. On the morning they set out to start their adventure, it rains heavily. And as they make their way through the storm, Mamo has a crisis and they have to take shelter at some stinking, abandoned abattoir to wait out his health crisis. Perhaps the abandoned abattoir they take shelter at is symbolic of the abandonment of Mamo's lofty childhood dreams. Anyways, Mamo is heartbroken that his body won't cooperate with his mind's dreams, and seeing the obvious restlessness and their longing to answer the call to adventure, he reluctantly asks his brother and cousin to go on without him. After an emotional and heartfelt goodbye with his brother, the twins' paths diverge. Lamamu and Asaba go off to adventure and war, and Mamu goes back home to endure a painfully boring passage of time with a silently oppressing father figure haunting his lonely days. When their father learns that the other twin has run away from home, he responds with the same barely challenged attitude that the twins have come to know and resent. But one can tell that Lamang feels a measure of heartbreak. For one, the twin that ran away from home is his favorite twin. He's the strong one, the healthy one, just like Lamang. As a man who cares an awful lot about appearances and how he is perceived, one can see why he has an affinity for the one child that would put him in a good light, and his consequent disappointment that this child, that is a great, admirable reflection of himself, has run off. So Lamang's heartbreak, at least the one perceived by the reader, is not as a result of fearing what would befall his runaway son. It is as a result of what people would think of him as a father. The next theme is heartbreak. In a way, all the themes discussed so far flow into another, such that one cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. For example, the death of a childhood dream is a heartbreak of sorts, is it not? A farewell to a sibling is another type of heartbreak. Mamo eventually gets the opportunity to further his education, but he soon drops out of school due to his health. This is another type of heartbreak. The heartbreak and consequent deaths one sees the characters experience in this book is rarely dramatic. It is barely perceptible, death by 1,000 tiny cuts. And that's what makes it oh so unsettling, oh so real, oh so painful. And the melancholia creeps in on you as you read. At least that was the case for me. Eventually, his paternal uncle Iliya cajoles him into taking a teaching job at a local community school. But while this job gives him a purpose of sorts, it's just a spark, barely offering respite or excitement to the overwhelming melancholia and boredom that plagues him. But then in comes Zara, a childhood sweetheart. He'd known Zara briefly in their childhood, but the brief encounter was enough to imprint on him a subtle, nuanced affection and attraction to her. Zara is introduced by Uncle Iliya, the headmaster of their local school. She's come from the city to work for free as a teacher in the community school. Soon enough, they are acquainted with each other's body, soul, and baggage. They get to see each other's baggage, him jealous of his healthier, globe-trotting, adventure-seeking brother, him with intelligence trapped, strangled, imprisoned by a frail body, him bitter at his father, her divorced, her child taken from her by her powerful ex-husband, and a silent sibling rivalry with a sister that is everything she's not, happily married with her kids. with her kids in her marital home and favored by their mother. To a large extent, all they can ever be to each other is a witness, an audience to each other's stories, pain, and baggage. And this is perhaps what makes their romance not quite a romance story. Their story is more reality than romantic fiction, and their subsequent silent breakup more painful than the dramatic ones of stereotypical romance novels. In their romance, their helplessness mirrors the real world, the way it's less malleable than fiction. In a romantic fiction, one or both parties might have a trick up their sleeve, an ace that resolves the other's baggage or at least brings them joy, a rest, a comfort that far outweighs their pain. But that is not the case for these two. There's a palpable pain emanating from the both of them, and neither of them can truly take the other's pain away or substantially ameliorate it. The next theme that I'm going to speak about is coming of age. Lamang, the father of the twins, is one of the most eligible bachelors in their village. He's wealthy and good looking, ambitious, and a sweet talker. As a result, widows flock to him and their home. They flirt with him, they bask in the attention he gives them, and as one can imagine, the twins are not too happy about this, and they have pent up resentment for the cackling widows. But eventually, with age, Mamo, the elder twin, comes to see them as people too, as fellow humans. And what are humans if not seeking, yearning validation? When his father dies, it dawns on him as he watches them grieve more than anyone that they were grieving for the way Lamang saw them, not as widows, but as women, as people, desirable. To quote from the book, the women were far away to one side. I could make out Auntie Marina standing with her head high, and her eyes were red and her lips twitching. Next to her were the three widows, standing together, holding each other and crying. They had grieved more than anyone else in these past 2 days. At first, I thought they were overdoing it, but now I realized that they were not only grieving for my father, they were grieving for themselves. While he was alive, my father had given them one gift no one else had given them in a long time. He had looked at them not as aging mothers and helpless widows, but with desire. While he was alive, he had stood between them and abhorrent age. Now that he was gone, their one protection against reality was gone too. The subtle reconciliation with the widows, the coming of age to understanding their own point of view, is just one of the many moments of realization and maturing that the main characters experience in the book. All right, I wrote this in my blog. By attempting to write a cohesive review via themes, I've sort of written myself into a corner, but I wouldn't be me without seeking new ways to do old things. The rest of the story explores themes of corruption. It uses everyday life to explore lust and love and greed, the mundanities of human existence and the human condition in general, small wins, small losses, even bigger losses, hoping against hope. But altogether, this was without a doubt a masterfully executed story by the author. I don't think this is a story that should be read in a hurry. There's so much to digest here. And even with the spoilers I've shared, I've only scraped the tip of the iceberg. Measuring time is multiple stories in one. It is multifaceted, but it is above all one character's attempts to weigh the worth of their life, to analyze their time so far on earth, to see if it has been worth anything. What is any one life in a sea of billions? That is what makes the story such a moving one. It is moving because many of us have been there before, the weighing room, and we'd be there again and again and again. So that is all for my book review that I wrote a while ago on Measuring Time by Helon Habila. It is one of my favorite books ever, and I am so glad to share it with you. I hope that you can read it. You can try and find it and read it. It's very good. It's a very amazing story. It was really moving for me because it forced you to look inward and to to deal with the fact that not many lives are as glamorous as the movies and the books portray. Many people's lives are uneventful, but it is still worthy of something. And even as uneventful as many lives are, we often wonder if it has been worth it for us. We often try to measure our time on earth and wonder if it has been worth anything. And that is what makes the book so moving. So that will be all for this live. Thank you so much for being here, for watching, and for, reacting. I will see you in my next video. Bye.